Okay, so what we're going to do with this video is I'm going to lead you through the HEART tools. So just to review, the HEART tools are heartful emotion affect regulation training, basically to remind you that your affect is your presenting emotion and how you kind of emotionally are existing every moment, and your affect can be trained, and the more that you are in any state of affect, again, authentic affect, not just pretending you feel good when you don't, but anytime you are in any state of authentic affect, you get better at that state. So the idea of the HEART tools are to intentionally engage your calm and connection system deep enough and often enough that that becomes your primary way of being. To do this, the very first thing that would be helpful is if you pull out the emotional chart that you did several weeks back as one of your assignments. Again, what I asked you to do is draw a line vertically down the middle of a page, and on the top, write words that authentically make you feel good. And again, there are no right and wrong answers, because emotional words are always representative of the emotional state you were in when you learned that word, or if you've had any impactful experience through that word. So in other words, while one person may have love way up at the top, another person that may have been very hurt by love, their authentic experience when you say that word isn't necessarily above the line. So what I wanted you to do is write words that made you feel good. And again, they're words describing emotion. So love, happiness, joy, confidence, clarity, things like that above the line, and then below the line, words that authentically make you feel bad. Because again, the way it makes you feel means that that is the physiological imprint that it's bringing up in you. So everybody is going to be different on these words, but below the line, it would be words that make you feel bad. So maybe, fear, anxiety, depression, insecurity, all of those things. So again, these are words that are describing emotions. Later, we're going to get to the things that may bring up those feelings, but right now they're just the feelings. So please pull out your emotional chart, find it. If you can't, redo another one, because we're going to use this a lot. We're going to use this a lot as we go through today, but we're also going to use it a lot next week as well. So it's really important that you have this just as kind of a representative chart to be able to look at as we move forward.
And I meant the words, not the things. So things like, I don't know, happiness, joy, love, confidence, security, things like that above the line, and then below the line, things that make you feel bad. And remembering that there's no right and wrong answer, because we assign emotional content by what we experience when we learn the words. So I just want you to get those out. If you don't have them, just do a really quick remembering of it. So now what I want you to do, remember these were kind of general concept emotional words. What I want you to do, we're going to keep coming back to this. We're going to keep coming back to this. And so what I'd like you to do is keep it handy. If you can find the one that you did, would be the best. But at some point, if you can't, you're probably going to need to do another one, because we're going to keep coming back and referring to this. What I'd like you to do now is I'd just like you to look at the words that you wrote above the line, and now I want you to just brainstorm on things that bring up those feelings. So in other words, at the top of the line were the feelings, were joy, were like I said, confidence or love or happiness or security or... So now I want you to write things that bring those up. Most of the time, and some things may do it sometimes and some... So I just want you to kind of brainstorm and make a list. Okay, so I want to just, first of all, I know it's been a while, so we need to get ourselves back in this room, get ourselves out of spring break. So just like take a couple of deep breaths. Breathe out, like sigh. Your body sighs to kind of calm itself down, and it's a great tool that you can use. So just take just a couple of really intentional sighs. Don't be shy about it. I know you kind of feel stupid, but don't. Just and sit up. Not strainingly tall, but just a little bit so you're not... See, the thing is again, your body is in this constant feedback loop of physiology, emotion, physiology, emotion, physiology, emotion. You can jump in anywhere in that loop and change what's going on. So just by changing your physiology, you can change what's going on by your emotion. It's huge, 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 really quick, I don't want to say tricks, but really quick practices that you can do to totally begin to switch what's going on with your emotional system. So just relax your shoulders, raise your sternum just a little bit, not so. If it feels comfortable to do so, just cultivate a tiny little smile. It doesn't have to be a huge one, but just a tiny little. You can do that. If you can do that more, the more you engage in doing that, your whole physiological system, including your biochemistry. We talked a lot about the damaging effect of cortisol in here. Your cortisol just went down a big notch. Your oxytocin probably went up a little bit, which is not exactly an anti-cortisol, but pretty close. Helps you see expansiveness, possibility, opportunity, answers where you didn't see any. So now also let's bring ourselves present in the room. So just focus on what it feels like to be right here, right now, not worrying about what just happened, not stressing about what's gonna happen. And again, kind of still focusing on that physiological change. I'll tell you, you go in to sit and take a test, take a midterm, or go in to do a presentation. You just adopt a little bit of that physiological shift, everything's going to shift. And you actually have access to more of the information that's stored in your brain when you hold a different physiology. It's pretty amazing. You not only learn better, but you recall better. Okay, so what we're going to do now that we're really present, what I'd like you to do just for a moment, I want you to, since we're coming off of spring break, we're just going to name that, right? It's been a week. Hopefully it's been some week that held some good. I know that some of you were still trying to make up for all the stuff that was hanging over for this semester. I want you to think back on the week and think back on something, just one moment. Don't sit here and try to evaluate whether the week was better or not or anything like that. Just reflect back on one moment that was really life-generating for you. whatever that. And if there wasn't something last week, think back in the last couple of months. And it doesn't have to be huge. It can be one little thing. So what I don't want you to do is go back and, oh no, it's just been such a bad time. That's not what I'm asking you to do. Even one little tiny thing, conversation with a friend. And I just want you to hold what that feels like for a minute, that experience feels like. Not just think about it, but I want you to just kind of hold what that experience feels like just for a minute. If it helps to hold what it feels like, you can kind of hold an image. A lot of people, it helps to hold an image to bring up the feeling, but the feeling is more important. Okay, so now we're just going to hold that for a few minutes. I'm going to back up and kind of ground us in where we did. Did anybody, first of all, feel a shift in what we just did? Different sense of presence. To me, the presence in the room is night and day from what we were experiencing about 5 minutes ago. Again, we talked about everyday ways of being. 3-to-1 ratio, creating micro moments, paying attention to where your attention is, cementing the good. Those are all things that you can just do all day long, every day, that begins to cement the capacities for looking at the world in a different way. And again, it's not about this Pollyannish being happy all the time. Absolutely not. But if you see expansiveness and you see possibility when you're in a calm and connected state, that leads you to different places of opportunity in your life. Okay, it's not about just, oh, I'm just going to pretend to be happy all the time. That's zero about what this is about. So then I gave you some tools to talk about stopping your stress response, the power of pause. When you're super stressed out, what do? Okay, so can I just pause? I told you the story about my dad that morning. I was in a crazy state. Everything that could go wrong started going wrong. I started to get in that state again this morning because I couldn't believe everything that was going wrong this morning. And what did I do? Not just thinking about the power of pause and present moment awareness, I started remembering the story about my dad. It's like, oh, okay, so maybe this isn't such a big deal. So the power of pause, just pausing, what does that do? It reduces your fear response. Present moment awareness. And again, those are two different things, but they overlap a lot. Present moment awareness, grounding yourself right here, right now. What's going on right here, right now? One of the best tools in the world that you can have if you struggle with anxiety. Absolutely. Because usually when we're in a state of anxiety, especially if you've ever had panic attacks, that's when your brain and your body, and it is really a bodily-led thing, goes to this other place of anxiety. It's like, okay, so what's really going on right here, right now? So those are huge tools to just be able to stop your response. And again, I gave you when we met a week ago last Wednesday, was so it's not just about stopping a response. What happens when you're in a space and you're stopping that response? You know, I think I can't remember what example I gave you. You're going in to talk to a professor and you're really nervous, and so you present moment awareness, but then it comes back because you have some real triggers around authority. Maybe your parents were always telling you weren't good enough, or maybe you were in a state of always feeling you weren't good enough in whatever thing that you were doing in high school. And so that keeps coming back. You calm down, but it comes back. So then the very next thing is we got to actively cultivate something completely different, and that's where we're going next. Okay, so remember, again, I told you you got two different systems. You got a fear response system, you got a calm and connection system. Whatever system you're in is the dominant system of how you see, but also then how you begin to create the capacity for more than the same of that thing. So if you're primarily in your fear response system, you're just creating the capacity to live from your fear response system. If you're more often in your calming connection system, you're creating a greater capacity to live from that system. So now, instead of just